Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Saturday, May the 22nd. We finally got the start of the playoffs. We got a 4-game playoff slate to talk about. Obviously, over these last few days, I haven't really been, too active on the channel. I haven't been making any videos. There was only one game Wednesday. There was only one game Thursday. There was only one game Thursday. There was only one game Friday. I'm pretty sure Wednesday as well, there was just one game. Like, there's basically just been showdown slates these last few days. I'm not a big fan of showdown. You guys kind of know that. Like, showdown's not something I really enjoy. So I didn't make videos for the showdown slates, but we do officially have the playoffs starting on Saturday. We got 4 games to break down. Pretty sure for the next, whatever 4, 5, 6 weeks of the playoffs are going on, we're going to have a max of 4 games on a daily basis. I think most days we're going to have like 3, 2 games. Some days we'll have 4. I don't think there's ever going to be any days where we have more than 4 games. So we're going to have 4 game slates or less basically moving forward. I'll still be here though breaking down every slate. I'm going to still try and make videos every single day. Still going to try and live stream, pretty much Monday through Friday, maybe on the weekends. I might go live for this slate. It is a bit of an earlier lock. Locks at 2 today, so don't know yet, but we'll see. I may go live for this weekend slate. But as always, guys, we're going to go game by game, talk about these 4 games, talk about each team, just let you guys know what stands out to me looking at the slate on Friday night. So before we get started, as always, would appreciate it if you would click that like button down below. Be sure to click that subscribe button as well, and be sure to click the notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also do get notified every time I live stream. And if you do really enjoy these YouTube videos, if you enjoy the content I put out on YouTube, you like what I offer here, I do have more content available on Patreon. If that is something that does interest you, you can get access to my full updated core plays. You can get access to our Discord chat. There's a lot of stuff I do offer on Patreon that is something that interests you. You can check that out, link down below in the description. But yeah, guys, let's go game by game, talk about these 4 games. We're just going to talk about Draftkings today. Right now, at the time I'm recording this video, Yahoo does not have a 4-game slate up. Like, they're only doing, at least right now, they're only doing showdown slates. So I'm just going to talk about Draftkings for today. Maybe, after I make this video, Yahoo will put out a 4-game slate, or maybe sometime in the morning they'll put out a 4-game slate. But for now, we're just going to focus on DK today because they're the only site. Obviously right now Yahoo does not have a 4-game slate up. So Miami, Milwaukee, we'll start off with this one. And we'll start off on the Miami side. So looking at Miami here, you have Jimmy Butler, you have Bam Adebayo at the top. These are 2 guys, especially towards the later part of the regular season, these were 2 guys that didn't really play much. I haven't played Jimmy much this season, especially later in the season. I didn't play Bam much at all this year. But, now that it's the playoffs, I think you're going to see these guys, really step up, play heavy minutes, demand more usage. Jimmy Butler, especially in the postseason, is someone I do have interest in at 8,400. He was really good during the playoffs last year. He was, pretty much led this Miami team to the finals, even though they came up short against the Lakers. Like, Jimmy was so good last year in the playoffs. I expect him to, be the same guy this year, play massive minutes, demand a ton of usage. At 8,400, I actually do have some interest in him today. There are some other studs, though, I think that are underpriced, that we will talk about, later in the video. But I definitely have interest in Jimmy. Now, Bam, on the other hand, not as high on. I think I would just rather play Jimmy between the 2. There are some other centers I do prefer over Bam. But then you got like Hero, Dragic, and Nunn. At their price points, like Hero is 6K. I don't think I can pay 6K for Hero, but 4,900 for Dragic, 4,800 for Nunn. I don't mind these 2 guys. Nunn does start, and he's probably going to get around 30, 32 minutes. I think Nunn for 4,800 looks like a decent value play. We're in the playoffs now, so it's going to be really hard to find value on a nightly basis. Everyone's playing. You're not going to get guys ruled out or anything. The only way we do get value is if guys like get hurt or something, and then Draftkings doesn't adjust the pricing. So there's not going to be much value on these playoff slates. 4,800 for a guy like Kendrick Nunn, who's probably going to play like 30 to 32 minutes, I think's okay. So Nunn and Jimmy are probably my 2 favorite plays for Miami. That really does it though for this team. I don't think I'm going to like Trevor Ariza or Duncan Robinson. None of the bench guys stand out. So it's really Jimmy and Nunn, and then I think Dragic is okay, Bam's okay, but I like Jimmy and Nunn the most. Now on the Milwaukee side, again, Milwaukee was a team when they were fully healthy during the regular season. I didn't really play anyone except Giannis. Like when Giannis is healthy, I just never play Drew. I never play Middleton. Really the only times I ever roster those guys is when Giannis is out. So now that we're in the playoffs and now that Giannis is fully healthy and he's going to be playing his massive minutes, I don't think I'm going to pay 8,100 for Middleton or 7,700 for Drew. Really, on this Milwaukee team, it's probably just Giannis and that's it. We will talk about Brook Lopez, though. I think 4,500 for Brook Lopez again, we don't have a ton of great value. Brook Lopez is probably going to play like 25 to 30 minutes. He could give you a decent score for 4,500. So he kind of falls into the Kendrick Nunn, category for me, where he's just a guy that's, below 5K that's going to play around 30 minutes. If you need a cheap option, I think Brook Lopez is viable, but clearly Giannis is the best play for Milwaukee. At the top here, we have a lot of studs. It's a 4-game slate. Even though it's just 4 games, we do have Jokic, we have Giannis, we have Jimmy Butler, we have Kawhi, PG, Damian Lillard. Like, there's plenty of pay-up options today. You got Tatum as well. You got Kyrie, Cade. Like, there's a lot of pay-up options. I think Giannis is one of my favorites, though, especially now that we're in the postseason. We're going to see Giannis playing 35, 36 minutes a night, maybe even more. The matchup against Miami, I would say, is not the best, but if we're going to get 36 plus minutes from Giannis here, if this game stays close, I expect that's what he plays. We know Giannis is a very high upside player. He's a guy that just contributes in all categories, has triple-double upside, can go for 65, 70 DK points any night. So definitely like Giannis at 10,700. We'll talk about some other studs I like, but I think Giannis is one of my favorites right now. We'll go ahead and move on to the next game, though. Talk about Dallas and the Clippers. So on Dallas here, with this team, like, the Clippers are not, or the Mavericks weren't a team I really rostered much at all this year when they were fully healthy as well. Like, they're very similar to Milwaukee. When they're fully healthy, I really just only roster Luka and Porzingis. Like, I never play Tim Hardaway or Dorian Finney-Smith or Josh Richardson. Really, the only time I ever roster those guys is when Luka's out or Porzingis is out. Obviously, that's not going to be the case here. The only thing I would say different, though, is, again, we don't have a ton of value. So, 4,300 for a guy like Josh Richardson, I think it's an okay value play. We don't really know exactly how many minutes Josh Richardson's going to play. My best guess is he probably gets like low to mid-20s. He hasn't really been a guy that's played like 30-plus minutes. Like, he hasn't played 30 minutes or more in 10 straight games. So for 4,300, again, he's an okay value play. Probably plays like 25-ish minutes. If you want to go there, I think that's fine. Luka, 10,500. In the postseason, I do expect him to, have a heavy role. He's going to obviously demand a ton of usage. He's going to play a ton of minutes. But on this slate, even though it's just 4 games, we have, Giannis, we have Jokic, who we've yet to talk about. We have Dame. There's a lot of stud options. I probably put Luka behind some of those guys. I think right now I do prefer Giannis. I do prefer Jokic, and I like some of these other guys we're going to talk about, these mid-range options. So, for me, Luka's not really a priority, I don't think. If I'm only playing one lineup today, I doubt I play Luka. There's going to be other guys I put ahead of him. But clearly, on a short slate, if you're playing multiple lineups, I think Luka is someone you're going to want to have in your player pool. Now, Porzingis at 8,100, now that it's the playoffs, like, do we see Porzingis finally, get things going? I mean, towards the end of the regular season, like, he was just never a guy rostered. Like, he just wasn't good at all. I mean, I know game log's not everything, but you look at the game log. Over his last 10 games, he only has 3 games over 40 fantasy points. At 8,100, I mean, I'm looking for 50-plus at that price point. Like, he needs to get me at least 45 to 50 DK points, and he's only done that once or twice out of his last 10 games. So I don't think I'm going to go to Porzingis today. It's really just Luka at the top, and then if you want to take a shot on like a Josh Richardson for value, I think that's fine, but I think Luka is clearly the top play from Dallas. Now, moving on to the Clippers side, the Clippers, another team, like, during the regular season, Kawhi and PG were never really guys I forced into my lineup. Like, there was always other studs I would prefer over those 2 guys, but this is definitely a different slate. I think Kawhi and PG are both pretty underpriced here, especially Kawhi. 8K for Kawhi I think is just too cheap, especially now that it is the playoffs. Again, this is another guy. We kind of saw his minutes a little limited towards the end of the regular season. We saw him really, just kind of taking it easy, wasn't taking a ton of shots, just wasn't really aggressive. I expect that to change here. I expect the minutes to go back up for Kawhi Leonard. I expect him to be way more aggressive, taking 20-plus shots a night, playing 35 to 40 minutes. 8K, I mean, Kawhi's one of those guys, like, when it comes playoff time, he turns things on. He's done it like every single year. He's always good in the playoffs. At 8K, I mean, we're going to see him. His price is going to rise. Over the next week or two. Kawhi's going to get up to 9K, closer to 10K. He is way underpriced today. I really like Kawhi Leonard at 8K. I think he's too cheap here. And I think Paul George as well for 7,800. We know these are the 2 guys, Kawhi and PG, the 2 guys that are going to dominate the usage on this team. Now, between the 2, I think I would rather have Kawhi just because he's a slightly better point-per-minute player. But Paul George, I expect to play 35-plus minutes. He should, demand a ton of usage here. These are going to be the 2 guys, just taking all the shots, doing all the heavy lifting for this Clippers offense. We're going to see these 2 guys, basically doing everything for them during the postseason. So I definitely like Paul George. I definitely like Kawhi. I do prefer Kawhi between the two, but I think both are really good options, and both are for sure underpriced today. Kawhi should be like 9,500. Paul George should be like 9K. I like both these guys a lot. But outside of the top two guys from the Clippers, I do want to talk about Serge Ibaka because I think he actually is a pretty decent value play today. Again, we don't have a ton of great value, but Ibaka for 4,500. He has recently come back from injury. He's only played 2 games since coming back from injury. In those 2 games, he did come off the bench in both those games, played 17 and 19 minutes, scored 29 and 26 DK points. Ibaka's always been a really good point per minute player. He's always been a guy that can be productive when he's on the floor. He can score, he can rebound, he can block shots. Blocking shots has always been, a specialty for Serge Ibaka. 4,500, like that is for sure too cheap for him, in my opinion. Now, the big question is how many minutes does he play? Like I said, he's come back from injury. He played 2 games since coming back, and he played 17 and 19 minutes in those 2 games. So does he get 19 minutes again? Possibly. Does he play a few more? He's had 5 days of rest. The last time he played was on May the 16th. So the Clippers, they haven't played in almost a week now. Ibaka's has had plenty of time to rest up. And we saw during the regular season, like he was their starting center when he was healthy. Obviously, Zubac was the starting center for a while when Ibaka was out. I'm pretty sure Ibaka was the starting center. If I'm correct there, I think Ibaka, when he was healthy, he was starting ahead of Zubac. And then, Zubac got the starting job while Ibaka was out. Does Ibaka move back into the starting lineup today? He might. Like, I don't really know. But 4,500, I think we get like 22, 24 minutes from Serge Ibaka. He's a fantasy point per minute player. Again, value's kind of hard to come by. So I'm looking at Serge Ibaka for value today. He is someone that I do have some interest in on the slate. If we look at Ivica Zubac, now the last game he only played like 1 minute. He subbed out. I'm not exactly sure what their plan was there. But then in that Houston game, he played 3 minutes, and then he just like never stepped on the floor after that. So I'm not sure what the plan is here with Zubac. Like, is he gonna have his minutes cut? Like, obviously he was playing a lot when Ibaka was out. But do these guys split the center minutes? Does Ibaka play more? Does Zubac see his minutes cut? Like, we don't really know what their plan is, but I would say that if Ibaka starts, he's probably my favorite value play on the slate. If he doesn't start, it makes him a little bit more risky, but I still think he gets around low 20s minutes off the bench, maybe even more. And for 4,500 with minimal value, I'm definitely willing to go to Serge Ibaka for value on this slate. So really like him, really like Kawhi and PG. That's probably it, though, for the Clippers. I don't think I'm going to anyone else on this team. Like Marcus Morris, I just don't really ever play when Kawhi and PG are healthy. Maybe Rondo off the bench you could take a shot on. I don't know what they're going to do with the starting lineup, if they're going to start Reggie Jackson or Patrick Beverley. I mean, Beverley's super cheap. Who knows how many minutes he plays. He's had his minutes limited basically all season, but maybe now that it's the playoffs, like, do they play Patrick Beverley a little bit more? I guess they could. 3,300 if he's starting, maybe you could go there, but not a ton of confidence. I would say that probably does it for this Clippers team. I think we can go ahead and talk about the next game. So next game up, we got Boston and Brooklyn. On the Boston side today, there is a lot to like here. Really good matchup against Brooklyn. Brooklyn's been playing at a pretty fast pace all season. They haven't really been that good of a defensive team. They had that stretch where they were just playing so bad defensively. Then they kind of figured things out. Still, though, I think this is a good matchup here for these Boston guys. So you have Tatum at the top, 10,100. Normally, if this was a different slate, I think I'd have a lot more interest in Tatum. But since we do have Jokic, since we do have Kawhi, Giannis, I don't know if I'm going to get to Tatum here, but it's hard not to like him. I mean, with Jaylen Brown done for the season, you're going to see Tatum dominating the usage for this team. He played 41 minutes in their last game against the Wizards. That was a must-win game. You saw Tatum just get massive usage, play a ton of minutes, took 32 shots, had 50 real-life points and 73 DraftKings points. I mean, again, like, Tatum's another guy. Now that it's the playoffs, I think he's just going to demand a heavy workload. Without Jaylen Brown, the workload's going to be even heavier for Tatum. I don't mind him at 10,100, but again, I think I do prefer Jokic, and I do prefer a guy like Giannis. Kawhi I like as well in the mid-range, but Tatum for sure in play on a short slate like this. I think for the savings, though, I would rather play Kemba. I do like Kemba quite a bit at 7,500. He's another guy that benefits without Jaylen Brown. Really all these guys do. Kemba, Tatum, we're going to talk about Fournier, Marcus Smart. Like, they all get boost with Jaylen Brown off the floor, especially Kemba, though. He's going to get more usage, going to have the ball in his hands more. His minutes should be through the roof as well. He played 34 minutes last game in that must-win game against the Wizards. I think we're going to see probably 35, 36 minutes here from Kemba, maybe even more. I think they did pull him a little early because it was a blowout. The Celtics did start to pull away late in that game, so You know, if we're going to get like 36 minutes from Kemba without Jaylen Brown in a good matchup against Brooklyn, 7,500 I think is still a little bit too cheap for him. I think this is going to be a guy we see put up 45 to 50 DK points, you know, close to on a nightly basis. Like, he's going to average that probably in the playoffs. He's going to be a guy we look to roster a lot, and I think at 7,500, we're still getting a little bit of a discount on him. I think this is one of those guys we're going to see his price rise as the playoffs progress and as, you know, he just gets more games under his belt. He's going to be an 8K, $8,500 player. I think Kemba's for sure underpriced, so I do like him at 7,500. And then you have Evan Fournier at 6,200, another guy that benefits without Jaylen Brown. He's seen his minutes be through the roof lately. He's played at least 35 minutes or at least 34 minutes in 4 of their last 5 games. You know, Fournier, he's always a riskier player to roster just because he is pretty scoring dependent. You know, if he's not knocking down shots, he can give you bad games. Like, we saw him have 23 DK points against Washington, 29 against the Minnesota, 28 against Cleveland. Like, if he has bad shooting games, you can get those type of floor games from Fournier, but the opportunity is going to be there, and I think that's what's key. He's going to play big minutes. He's going to play probably 36 minutes if this game does stay close. He should average around a fantasy point per minute as long as he can make his shots. I think it's 6,200. Fournier is someone I do have some interest in on this slate. He's shooting guard and small forward eligible on DK, which makes him super appealing. You can roster him at multiple positions. So I do have some interest in Evan Fournier as well. Him, Kemba, Tatum, I think are all good plays today. Marcus Smart at 6,100, I'm not as interested in. I think I would rather play Fournier at a similar price point if I, you know, had to choose between the two. But, you know, Smart's going to play big minutes. They're going to need his defense against Harden and Kyrie. So you could go to Marcus Smart. I think I would rather play Fournier, though, between the two. Outside of that, though, I don't see too much I like on Boston. Robert Williams, he is expected to play in this game. We don't exactly know what his minutes are going to look like. He did play 14 minutes. He started against Washington. He played 14 minutes. Like, does he play 15 minutes? Does he play 20 minutes? I really have no idea. In that last game against the Wizards, you saw Tristan Thompson. He got 30 minutes, and then Robert Williams only played 14. So it kind of feels like they want to play Thompson more right now. I don't know why. I feel like Robert Williams would be the guy you'd want to go with. But if Tristan Thompson is going to be getting 28 to 30 minutes, I mean, he's an okay option at 5K. This is not a great point per minute player. Like, Thompson's never been a guy that has massive upside. Even if he has a big game, normally he only gives you like 30 fantasy points. But at 5K, if you do get 30 fantasy points from Thompson, you know, that is a pretty good return on his salary. So you can maybe go to the bigs. I think I'm probably going to just stay away from them, though. If I was to play one of them, honestly, I might just take the shot on Robert Williams and hope he gets the minutes. Robert Williams is a very productive player when he's on the floor. The matchup is really good. If he somehow gets like low 20s minutes, even like 25 minutes, I mean, Robert Williams could break the slate at 4,900. I think taking a shot there in GPPs makes some sense, but that probably does it for the Boston side. Now on Brooklyn, this is a tough team to break down. They're fully healthy now. Harden's going to play. Kyrie, KD are all in. You know, now that we're in the playoffs, I think we're going to see these guys, you know, just really dominate the usage on this team. They've always been, or basically during the regular season, we didn't see them playing a ton together. Like, out of the, you know, whatever games the Nets have played this season, like we haven't seen Harden, Durant, and Irving all play together for like a good amount of these games. Like, I don't know the exact number, but I think out of the like 70 or 80 games they've played this season, like only like 8 or 9 of them that have all been healthy in. So these guys have kind of been, you know, like KD's been injured, Harden's been injured, Kyrie's been injured, he's been out for personal reasons, but now it's the playoffs. These guys are all healthy. How are they going to, you know, what's the usage going to look like for these guys? Do we really want to pay for them if we don't exactly know, you know, what we can expect from them? It's going to be tough to predict on a nightly basis what we get from Harden, Kyrie, KD. Obviously, they have upside, but, you know, do I want to pay $10,300 for Harden when I can get Jokic, Giannis, you know, guys that I know are going to dominate the usage and going to be the number one on offense, whereas Harden's having to share the ball with 2 usage dominant players in Kyrie and KD. So, me personally, I think I'm probably just going to be staying away from these Brooklyn guys. I don't see too much I like here. I think it's just a wait and see. I think right now all these guys are kind of overpriced. Kyrie, I feel like, should be probably like 8,500. Durant should probably be like 9K. Harden should probably be like, you know, 10K. So I don't think I'm going to any of the Brooklyn guys today, at least not the big 3. And I don't think I'm really going to the secondary pieces. Bruce Brown we saw play really well towards the end of the regular season, but I think a lot of that had to do with, you know, Harden being out, Kyrie, you know, kind of being out some of those games. With Bruce, you know, with the big 3 all healthy, like, how many minutes does Bruce Brown play? My best guess is he probably gets like low 20s minutes. So again, you know, with the slate that we or with a slate where we're lacking value, could you take a shot on $4,300 Bruce Brown and hope he gets like 22, 24 minutes? You definitely could. I just don't think we should expect 30 minutes a night from Bruce Brown. I just don't think he's going to play that much when you have Harden, Kyrie, KD all healthy. But Bruce Brown's been really good for Brooklyn this year. He's a good defender. They're going to need his defense here against, you know, guys like Tatum and Kemba. So for 4,300, I'm fine with Bruce Brown as a value option. I would just say temper your expectations. Don't expect him to play 30 minutes and score 36 DK points. I think it's more likely you get 22 minutes and 24 DK points from Bruce Brown, which is still good for 4,300, but not a guy you really have to have. I think if you're trying to go like stars and scrubs here, there's plenty of stars to pay up for. If you're desperate for value, I think these are the kind of guys you can look to. You know, guys like Kendrick Nunn, Brook Lopez, Bruce Brown, Ibaka, like. None of these guys I think are really like smash values. Like there's really no smash value on this slate, but these are players I think you can go to. They at least could give you a good score at their salaries. Bruce Brown definitely falls into that category. So that probably does it for Brooklyn. If I had to play anyone on this team, it probably would be Bruce Brown, to be honest with you. But I think we can go ahead and talk about the last game of the night, Portland and Denver. So starting off with Portland here, I do have some interest in this Portland team. I think Damian Lillard at the top, 9,400. Again, if this were a different slate, I think I would have a lot more interest in Lillard. Lillard was not a guy I played much during the regular season, but I'm going to have interest in him in the playoffs. We know Lillard's a guy that can handle a heavy workload. We saw him playing massive minutes during the regular season, playing, you know, close to 40 minutes a night in close games. I think we're going to see him play massive minutes during the playoffs, probably 40 to 42 minutes on a nightly basis. Can Portland hang with Denver in this series? That's really the big question. I think they can. If we do see competitive games, we're going to get big minutes from Lillard. We know he has a ton of upside. Again, though, we have Jokic, we have Giannis, we have Kawhi. Like we've just talked about so many stud options. Obviously, we can't play all these guys, but I would definitely want some exposure to Dame if I was playing multiple lineups. I think, though, if I'm only playing one lineup today, Dame probably doesn't make it into my one lineup. CJ at 7,900, I'm not as interested in. Like, I just really never play CJ. I don't think I'm going to get to him on this slate. I'd rather play Kemba at a similar price point. I'd rather just get up to Dame. Nurkic, though, this is a guy that I played a lot during the regular season, and I have a lot of interest in him here today in the postseason. I think the minutes for Nurkic, you know, they were kind of off and on. There was definitely games where he would lose minutes to blowout. There was games where he maybe get into foul trouble, but I think we're going to get like 28 to 30 minutes from Nurkic on a nightly basis, especially in this series against Denver. They're going to need his size out there against Jokic. I feel like he definitely matches up better than Enes Kanter does. Like they would definitely rather have Nurkic out there defending Jokic than they would Kanter. So if we get like 30 minutes from Nurkic, I mean, this is a very productive player. Like we saw him put up 45 DK points in only 20 minutes against Denver when these teams played right before the end of the regular season. Nurkic is a great point per minute player. He stuffs the stat sheet. He scores. He rebounds. He can get assists. For a center, he actually does a pretty good job getting assists. He can get defensive stats. In my opinion, 7,200 is still too cheap for Nurkic here. If he gets anywhere near 30 minutes, he is very likely to pay off this price tag. So I would say he is my favorite play from Portland, followed by Damian Lillard. Outside of that, though, I don't think I'm going to anyone else on this Portland team. Like Norman Powell at 5,700, he's okay, but I just don't think I'm going to go to him on this slate. He probably plays big minutes, but the production on a nightly basis is just so inconsistent for Norman Powell. Same with Robert Covington. Covington probably gets, you know, pretty good minutes, but I mean, we've seen Covington, his floor is just so low. He can literally score 15 DK points in 30 minutes. He's just not that productive of a player. That probably does it for Portland. I don't see too much else here I like outside of Nurkic and Dame, the two guys that really stand out the most. Now on the Denver side here, looking at the Nuggets, you have Jokic at the top, 10,600. Jokic right up there with, you know, Kawhi, some of these other guys we talked about, Kawhi, Giannis. I would say Jokic is for sure probably one of my favorite studs. 10,600, I think, you know, he's priced appropriately, but now that it's the postseason, like we saw Jokic really, like towards the end of the regular season, we didn't really know what we were getting from Jokic just because Denver didn't really have anything to play for those last few games. Jokic was having his minutes limited, only played 17. That game against Portland, he only played the first half, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember, honestly, but only played 17 against Portland, only played 26 against Detroit. They were clearly limiting him down the stretch. They really didn't need to push him. Denver just didn't have anything to play for, but now that we are in the postseason, I think we're going to get back to 35, 36 minutes a night from Jokic, maybe more. We know Jokic is a very high upside player. a guy that just, can go out there and just smash and put up 70 DK points any night. He's right up there with Giannis, right up there with Kawhi in terms of favorite pay-up options for me. I like Jokic a lot on this slate for sure. He was a guy I played a lot during the regular season, and I'm going to play him a lot in the postseason. The only issue is that we just don't have a ton of great standout value, and we're not really going to have much value on these playoff slates. So you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're probably going to have to play some guys you don't really have a ton of confidence in, but I'm always fine doing that when it lets me get in a stud like Jokic who can just go out there and put up 70 plus any night. Michael Porter Jr. though at 8,200, again, I didn't play him a lot during the regular season. He just feels overpriced right now. I don't think I really need to go to MPJ at that price point. I'd rather play Kawhi for sure. Like, give me Kawhi all day over MPJ. I don't think I'm going there. Campazzo, I don't mind at 5,200. With no Will Barton, with no PJ Dozier, with no Jamal Murray, like his minutes are just, they're going to be there. I mean, he's played 33, 37, 34, 33. Obviously only played 14 last game, but that was a meaningless game. They really didn't care to win. I think we're going to get 34, 35 minutes here from Campazzo. He's been relatively productive when he's on the floor. He looks like a pretty good mid-range option at guard. If you're looking for a guard in that 5K range, I think Campazzo does stand out as a solid play. Aaron Gordon's been terrible. He's just a guy that's tough to roster. He's obviously been great, on the defensive end. He's helped this Denver team a lot defensively, but for DFS, when it comes to fantasy, like Aaron Gordon he doesn't do much. He just hasn't really been a guy worth rostering. Maybe he'll turn things on in the playoffs, but at 5K, even at this pretty cheap price tag, I really don't have any interest in Aaron Gordon. I'd just rather roster Campazzo. And then Austin Rivers is questionable. I don't know if this really matters too much. I would say that if Rivers winds up out, you'll probably see more minutes for like Marcus Howard, more minutes for Monte Morris. I don't think I'm going to go to any of those guys, though. So for me, on Denver, I think Jokic and Campazzo are the two guys I really like here, and that's probably it for this Denver team. And I think that does it for all 4 games on the slate, guys. So I hope you did enjoy the video. Hope you did enjoy this little breakdown. If you did, be sure to click that like button down below. Click that subscribe button as well. Hit the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also do get notified every time I live stream. Not sure yet if I'll be live for this Saturday stream. Again, locks pretty early today. Locks at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so to be determined if I go live. If I do, though, I probably will go live like an hour or 2 before lock. We'll just have to see. But wish you guys the best of luck on this slate. I appreciate you watching. I hope you did enjoy the video. Good luck. We'll see you in the next one.